next topic I want to talk about is some of the life events we go through. Now, part of that, one of the life events is the option of bankruptcy. Now, many people think that bankruptcy is the end of all, and in a sense it does impact a lot of things, but you can strategically go through a bankruptcy. And what I encourage my clients is that if bankruptcy is an option, to understand what can and cannot be done in bankruptcy and how to recover from it. So we, from a credit standpoint, look at how can we get someone credit worthy going through bankruptcy. Now, it's important, if you're going to work with a bankruptcy attorney, that you find one that is up on the current laws, up on the current regulations, understanding that bankruptcy sometimes can be improved in the real estate arena by the types of bankruptcy you file and the process you go through. Now, we blend our credit expert abilities working with people in bankruptcy, and many times we can, as we know, Chapter 7 stays on a credit report for up to 10 years. Chapter 13 would be 7. Now, we, through our practices, can educate people on how they can achieve scores even going through a bankruptcy. In fact, one of the most amazing things that happens in bankruptcies is once someone files for bankruptcy, their score actually goes up. That's kind of a confusing thing to think about, but once again, credit is made up of the relationship between good credit and bad credit, and when bad credit is removed via a bankruptcy or via a credit restoration company, scores will go up. But it's also important to realize that bankruptcy does have its limitations. First off, applying for credit, you will be denied. But there is hope after bankruptcy. Say you want to purchase a home. Well, if you've never purchased a home, you can qualify in 2 years for an FHA loan. And if you've already had a home and you're applying for a conventional, there's a 3-year limitation. So basically what I'm saying is that if bankruptcy is an option, you want to make sure you go through it understanding how to get through it positively. And in most cases, we can get someone very, very healthy in less than 3 years, where normally a bankruptcy would take 10 years to come off a credit report. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about credit as it relates to some events that we're facing right now in our economy. As we all know, we're in a pretty serious crisis mode. Real estate, the primary problem with real estate these days is the undervalue of home prices. Now, thinking of that, we know that when the credit crisis, the financial crisis started, where did people go? Well, everyone went to loan modifications. Well, loan modifications, even though they were positive, what was the basic premise? To lower the interest rate, lower the rates and terms, and ideally lower the payments that people would pay. And in most cases it achieved that. But over 80% of the people now that were doing loan mods are actually back in default again. And why is that? Is because the loan modification never really addressed the real situation. The real problem was property values declining. Property values where maybe they have a loan for $400,000 and now their property is only worth $200,000. But what we've noticed, as of late, is there's been a lot of life events that have come up that no one really has the answers, or it's hard to find people to give the answers. So we started doing what we call Q&A workshops, and it's to take the questions that you have that pertain to you and to help you understand what choices you want to make when going through a life event. So let's talk about that. Short sale or foreclosure. Many people ask us, what is worse for your credit, a short sale or a foreclosure? Well, it's important to realize that the most damage comes from the late payments. So moving up the chain when someone is considering a short sale or considering a foreclosure, they usually have a pattern of late payments. So as they get from a 30 to 60 to 90-day late payment, that's going to be the impact of their score. That's where they're going to see the most hurt. Someone with an 800 FICO score could see a 200-point hit by having a 90-day late. So starting with the late payments is where the damage really does come. And then the decision is, well, I may walk away from my house or give it back to the bank. Well, even though that's a viable situation that you can consider, we encourage our clients to think of another option. Naturally, there's an option of saving your home through either some type of modification product. If a person is determined that they are going to walk away from their property, then we encourage them to understand the impact of what a short sale and a foreclosure will do. Remember, the late payments damage the score the most. So following through, if someone wants to do a foreclosure, what's going to happen? Well, naturally, their reason for doing that is they've determined that the house is, they can't maintain it. They can't make the mortgage payment. It's upside down in property value. So they determined to give the house, give the keys back. Well, it's important to understand that on a foreclosure, there is two events that are probably going to happen. Number one is you're going to get a 1099. Now, you can consult with your CPA, and depending on how your tax situation is, you may be okay with that. But another major concern that most people are not considering is something called a deficiency judgment. When we talk to realtors and loan officers, we find that the majority of them do not fully understand what a deficiency judgment is. So briefly, a bank, a lender, has up to 4 years to file a deficiency judgment. And that can, come as late as 2, 3, 4, up to 4 years after you've done the foreclosure. So once again, this could create a financial hardship for you. Also, if it's a short sale, now many times in a short sale, you may receive a deficiency or you may receive a 1099, but working with a effective short sale specialist, they in most cases can negotiate to not have that event happen. I'd like to emphasize the importance that credit is very important, but most importantly, you can control your credit. Understanding the principles of how credit is derived by understanding that you don't want to be late, that's the most important thing. You want to work very, very hard at keeping your credit usage below 30%. Limit giving out your Social Security number. You don't want people checking your credit. You remember that inquiries do impact your credit score. So you can, through education, understand how basically you can work the system and you can raise your scores. It's not so much how much money you have, but it's how you use your credit, and you can maximize it to achieve the score that you've always wanted.